joining us on Diversity Chats. We bridge the gaps of diversity and destroy ignorance before it destroys another life. Today I have a guest with me, actually one of my relatives, very exciting stuff, who's up to a lot of really amazing things in his community, and so wanted to have him on and chat with him about what he's up to. And so guest, if you could please introduce yourself. What's your name?
My name is Sean Brown.
Sean!
So nice to see you, cousin.
Oh.
So nice to see you.
One more time?
I said it's so nice to see you.
I know. We only live like an hour and a half away from each. Well, maybe 2 hours, but same state, but California is too big.
Yeah.
So I'll ask you, just for our guests, I obviously know, but where are you from and where do you live?
So I'm originally from the Brooklyn, New York, and currently I live in Los Angeles.
Right, from one big city to the next. Well,
yeah, I like the city.
Big metropolitan area to another big metropolitan area. And
but I didn't move out here from New York though. I moved out here from Washington. I was living in Washington D.C.
So from one big metro area to a very big, another small big metro area to a bigger metro area. You skipped all of us small little. You skipped Ohio and everything.
I did. I went to college in Richmond though, so I got some little. I mean, you know, even though that is a city as well, but it is down south.
That's all right. We'll let it slide. We'll let it slide. So you're in LA right now, and then another thing is I like to ask my guests, what ethnic group do you identify as?
African American.
All right, African American, yeah. And then if you mind sharing your age or a range.
Yeah, I'm not ashamed of my age. I'm 46.
Thank you much. You know, I have to be respectful. I don't know. I hope I never care how old, you know, like I'm 97 and I don't care. I don't. Well, I think you get really
getting older is a blessing.
There you go.
It really is. Everyone's not didn't make it to 46.
Nope. That's the right response.
Definitely a blessing to be at this age.
Yes, none of that. Hey, Timmy. Timmy's saying hi to us. My cousin on the other side. So this is my cousin Sean, everybody. And he was a huge, just a shout out. Like your shout out. Yeah. Huge blessing to me when I first moved to LA. When I first moved, I only moved there once, but not true. I did move there twice. But anyways, he's huge to me when I moved to LA. And you know, you helped me, you know, transition over there. I really appreciate it. Definitely invaluable. It's so cool because we didn't really even know each other, but you're always just willing to help. And I know that you have that kind of giving heart and spirit, and that's why I want to have you on here today. To hear what you're up to with your giving, with your generosity. What have you been doing in your community in general, and then specifically, like some of the programs you've been a part of?
Well, you know, I do believe that you know, you should give back to your community, whichever community that may be, and so I do try to volunteer really a lot of my time and services mostly to the youth, but with the COVID, there's really not much volunteering going on. But yes, I've done several, like coaching, like I've coached for some kids, and most parents do some sort of coaching. But I've done that since I've been out here. What do you say?
What kind of what were you teaching or coaching?
Golf. I was teaching golf. So I was actually blessed enough to be introduced to the game of golf while I was in college. I was in Richmond, Virginia, and that was definitely one of the many blessings that I've had, and I try to share that with some of the youth. I think it's just such an amazing, fun sport. It's definitely missing diversity. With could have a lot more minorities in it. Obviously, there were times you don't have to necessarily get into that where there were quote unquote what's going on systematic racism. There were definitely points of entry blocked off into getting into professional golf. So there were barriers there. Obviously, we've had the best, hands down, the best golf player ever with Tiger Woods, who's has broken all kinds of barriers. Literally, really has. But there were fights, lots of fights, way before Tiger Woods got there. And there were people. Tiger Woods walked on a lot of people's shoulders to get to where where he's at. Definitely, being able to get into golf courses and golf clubs, all those types of things were denied at one time. I want to say actually even when Tiger Woods was playing and he started like in the 90s, when he first started, there were golf courses that weren't allowing him to play, but he was just so good that they just had to they had to let him play because he was just so good. But yeah, even Tiger Woods, I mean, slightly, he did have some slight racism or whatever you want to call it. But they just couldn't hold him back. He was just way too good. But anyway, I try to pass that on to the youth. I mean, there's lots of scholarships and cool things that you can do. Just playing golf, you don't get hurt. People are in their 40s, 60s, 70s still playing golf. So I know a lot of my friends have ACL, and I'm like, you're not LeBron. Why do you have an ACL injury? But yeah, it's really good on your body and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, so I try to pass that on. And
I never thought of it.
You never saw what?
I never thought about it. Like, I know, like, certain sports you age out of and things like that, but I never really considered how golf, I mean, unless your hip, I guess, but otherwise, or maybe throw your back out, but otherwise, you can be in it for a while.
Yeah, actually, I played at this golf course in Montebello last weekend, and I played with a guy 80 years old. He was a black guy, semi-pro, 80 years old.
Wow.
80 years old.
Wow.
He obviously he said he grew up in South Carolina. But I mean, you can play up to your. I mean, the guy was 80 years old. He's out there playing golf. Pretty cool. But yeah, he said he started off as a caddy. I mean, at one time, all the caddies were black until they started. But now what happens is the caddies share the money. So when the golfers when their prizes, each golf tournament, somebody gets a check actually at the end of every golf tournament when you're watching on TV, and so the caddies now get a little portion of that.
Nice.
Yeah, so now they're all white now.
I never really watch golf that much, honestly, so I didn't even think about all these different elements you're speaking to. My granddad on my dad's side loves golf. He golfs a lot. So I have a golf story. You want to hear it?
Yes, I do.
I wasn't going to share my golf story, but I feel like being random.
I took you out. You were so much fun. I remember one time I took you out to the golf course.
Did we play 18 holes? Because I don't even see how.
It wasn't. It was a little small. So.
I don't see how that was possible.
No.
When I was a kid, we went golfing with my granddad. Well, he probably did 18, and my brother and I did something else that's shorter. I don't know. And my brother, he was probably 7 or something, or maybe like 9. And I had to use the restroom. So my granddad's like telling my brother to take me to the restroom on the golf cart. Which I'm like, he doesn't know how to drive this thing. Like, he runs into the pole, I fly out. You know, it's like, that's not the experience you want to have when you have to use the restroom, you know, smack into the pole. So, anyways, that's my golf story. And maybe I'm scarred and that's why I don't play.
Maybe.
I love actually the driving range. I don't really play 18 holes, but I putt, and my mom said true story. Yes, it is a true story. And the driving range, I just like hitting the crap out of it. Any sport, I just like to hit things really hard or throw things really hard. So that's why I do the driving range. But anyway, that's for golf. So what are some of the impactful stories that you've experienced, if any, for the kids that you've worked with in the golf programs?
Oh, well, I mean, so the junior ones with the kids, I mean, I've worked with them, some of, you know, the age range starts from 7 to high school. So I've helped some of them get into college. Well, I've seen some of them get into college. A lot of them have been HBCUs, which is cool. Because I went to an HBCU, so I try to support them. So yeah, because a lot of kids in California don't know about HBCU.
What is an HBCU for our viewers, just in case?
Right. They are a historically black college and university. I'm pretty sure people are going to hear about it now since Kamala Harris graduated.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that with us. And that's really cool that you got to see them progress into college and know that you're a part of their success in life. And I know that you've done golf for many years, right, with the kids. What about, I guess more recently, but still a few years in, right, of the financial literacy that you've been doing with the kids? Is it associated with your job and it's in the school, or how did that work?
Yeah, well, I used to work for a bank, and the bank had a actual student run branch of the bank in the high school. And so I would go and help the high school out with the kids, you know, just so they could see different professions in the bank type of thing, so that they could see that they're more than just tellers or whatever. And then also help the bank with the kids, because the kids' responsibility was to speak to the other kids in high school about financial literacy. So that was really exciting. I used to do that a lot. And but I would also teach kids financial literacy just in general. I do believe that that's real important for kids to understand basics of money and finance and things like that. So with the COVID, you can't really do much live stuff. But I did recently do a workshop, a financial literacy workshop with Volunteers of America. Really,
oh, nice.
Which is a nonprofit, and out here in California, they have a division of the company that like helps with tutors and helps them get like college ready or graduation ready for the high school kids. And so that was something really nice. Recently during the COVID.
How did that? Have you heard any feedback yet, or what are the next?
Yeah, we're actually having a series. So we did the first one on like budgeting. So then the next one we're going to do the next class, I guess, will be on credit. And so what I do is I bring in actual professionals in those industries to come in and talk instead of just me or a teacher or whomever just teaching from a curriculum. So I bring in the actual professionals so that they can hear from someone in that industry, maybe how to get a job in there or whatever kind of questions. I just feel that if you have the actual someone from that industry, you can get a better perspective.
Mm-hmm. And is that open to anyone, or is that limited to certain people?
Yeah, this is for for high school kids, but it's specifically geared towards the kids that are enrolled into their program. But I believe any high school, if they wanted, other high school kids could join. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That's very cool. Mm-hmm. Did you know the name of the program or the series?
Well, it's Volunteers of America is the name of the organization. Mm-hmm. And then, they have like 2 divisions within there. I don't know the name of this. I think this one is called maybe Talent Search or something like that. Okay. But, and so they do all kinds of different things for the kids. Really, they do. And again, this is just one of the many things. But yeah, it's Volunteers of America. I want to say Talent Search. Okay. Portion of it. Mm-hmm. And
that's really cool. Mm-hmm. I love it. And I got someone saying hey to us. So hey, Ebony, thank you for joining us. Yeah. So I wanted to know what you think about like the benefits of financial literacy and starting that at a young age. Why is that important?
Well, just learning about money is important. Just in general, I think certain things were held back from, since we're talking kind of a little bit about diversity, some communities were held back from learning about certain things. And you only know as a community or as a child, you really only know what your parents tell you. So if your parents were not educated on money, really, then they're not going to teach you the right way to learn about money. Or they can't really teach you about money. So you're going to have a lot of mistakes on the way. So this is just a way to prepare someone for the basics. Obviously, you're still going to make mistakes because who really listens to anybody, right? But at least you know, or have some idea of it. But if you don't, you just don't want to make too many mistakes, especially with credit, because we have definitely moved into an era of, credit is almost king. So you start messing up, and so that can get into a different type of diversity where you start separating the rich and the poor kind of with this credit thing. So, you have credit and you have bad credit, you're down here. You have good credit, you're up there. You can't, high interest rates with low credit. There's all kinds of negative things that come with having low credit. That just need to be taught to the kids before they make a silly mistake, and then can't get an apartment, right? Or can't get some places run your credit, and if employers run the credit, and if your credit's not good, the job, they won't even hire you for the job.
Really?
Oh yeah. There's lots of employers who run your credit, and if your credit is bad, you won't even get the job. So there's lots of ways that they could kind of quote unquote discriminate against you just based off your credit. That's why I feel learning about this kind of stuff is very, very important for high school, for everyone. But the kids, because sometimes I feel like, sometimes you get to a certain age where you're just not going to listen to anybody. But, you feel like what they say, you can't teach an old dog new tricks sometimes. But, when you're young, you're still absorbing stuff. So you can still, you teach it to them.
Yeah. Yeah. And my friend Unique is agreeing with you there. They should start early. I'm curious about if you could speak to the significance of equity and how that's affected certain populations of people in America.
Um, and equity as in home ownership.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, equity is very important. Very, very important. Um,
What is equity?
and so, what equity is the it's really money. It's really money that the homeowner, that when you own your home, it's the money that you're getting in your property. So in other words, to put it in dollar amounts, if you buy a house for $100,000, and in 10 years the house is worth $200,000, and so if you bought it for $100,000, you had to put money down on the house, and then obviously you've been making mortgage payments for 10 years, so you may only owe, let's say, $75,000 on this house that you bought for $100,000, and 10 years later it's worth $200,000. So that difference between the $75,000 and the $200,000, which is $125,000, is your equity, and that's your money that you can use for whatever you want. Now, the way to access that money is to do something called either refinance the house, or you'd have to, obviously sell the house, and that's how you get the equity. But equity is the money that you've earned for owning the property in your house. Now, just one point I want to make about equity is, which is why in certain communities we really need to get more involved in politics, maybe, but to find out what's going on in your communities, because I forget the number amount, but again, we talked about equity, but in some neighborhoods, if the neighborhood is not considered a good neighborhood, then you're not going to get a lot of equity in your house. So now you've got the house like you're supposed to, but because of where you live, which at one time we could only live certain places.
You're so careful. You're so careful in your comments that I don't know if it's helping people. Please feel free to be honest and say it. Just say it, Todd.
Yeah, but yeah. So, sometimes you don't get a lot of equity in your property, and now you've done the right thing, but there's no equity in your property, and a lot of times that happens. That's almost like the credit thing. So and so the neighborhood is you're not getting good equity, so then people aren't paying their property taxes and blah blah blah. It just becomes a whole big mess. But you want to get equity. Equity is very, very, very important. I guess I'll just leave that alone from there.
Oh, okay. How does equity play in legacy as far as a family concerned?
Well, I mean, a lot of times that's the difference between someone having college student loans, and someone not having college student loans. A lot of times that is where families get money to pay something like their kids' college. That's really how it's supposed to work. You buy the house, you live in the house, you pay the balance down. When the kid goes into college, you can pull cash out of the house, pay the kids' college, and then call it a day. I mean, that's one of the things that you buy the house for, and yeah, so it's it's weird with the equity, because with this whole gentrification thing, I don't really agree with that terminology, because it's almost like communities are upset that their homes are worth more money, right? Right.
What is gentrification really quick?
So some people say gentrification is when a group of one race of people or community of people move into. So let's just say Watts, for example. We all have heard of Watts or Harlem or whatever. These supposedly areas with certain kinds of people in them. And so if you're in Harlem or Watts where there's only black people, and then all of a sudden then white people start moving in, that's what they consider is gentrification. When another
what is that doing? Like, because of the mix of culture or money?
Well, so in today's terminology, what it means is that people are saying that it's forcing people to move out. So because they're saying that the white people are coming in and raising the values, so everything in the neighborhood gets more expensive. So you're not going to the local coffee shop; you're going to Starbucks, right? And so then so they move in, the properties go up, the rents go up because obviously this is a nice neighborhood. This is a sought after neighborhood now. So the rents go up, and so people say we can no longer live in our quote unquote neighborhood, and they have to move, and they get upset, and that's where the whole term gentrification.
That was happening a lot recently with San Francisco and Oakland.
Well, pretty much everywhere, but any big city.
Because of
any big city. But yes, that's a great example. But I mean, I think the medium income in San Francisco is $150,000 or $200,000 a year. So that's not even for whatever you might call normal people or whatever. So San Francisco's on a whole nother level. But yes, that's an example of what they call gentrification, right? Of Oakland, yeah.
And so you feel like that term is not it's controversial, you're saying, or you don't agree with it because it's not bad that your property has increased?
Exactly. That's actually a very good thing that you have this now. You have a lot more equity, right, in your house. How is that a bad thing? Number one, and number two, if it's your quote unquote neighborhood, I don't know. You know who you're selling the house. You can sell the house to whoever you want to sell the house to.
Mm-hmm. What if people don't want to move, or what if they can't afford the new prices for cost of living in their neighborhood they got used to?
What do you mean they want to move?
Well, you said if they don't want to move, like you said, they can just sell their house. What if they don't want to move?
Oh no, to get equity out of your house, you either can refinance your house or you can sell your house.
Mm-hmm.
Now, if your credit is bad, you might not be able to refinance your house. So could you imagine having a house that's $100,000 and now it's worth $400,000 and you've messed up your credit and now you can't even access the money that's in your house?
I'm going to pretend like I understand what you're saying because I get financial literacy, unfortunately, in early years. So I'm still learning all the terms. And I do get 400 minus 100 is 300,000. Exactly. I get math. It's when the words get in there and it kind of gets confusing for me. So thank you for sharing some of the information with us. I think financial literacy is super important. And I think you could start even earlier than high school for sure, teaching your kids from home about the dollar or whatever with they're wanting for things and just seeing how far money really goes and everything like that. And I also think, with finance, just to close, one thing that I'm noticing that there's a lot of issues and it's not a new problem is when someone passes away, there's no literacy there. And that's attached to financial literacy. But there's just a lot of weird things when it comes to, I think it's really expensive to die basically. And there's a lot of confusion and a lot of words and terms and things. I really wish that it was more universal. And I feel like you're saying, people should get more involved in politics. I think that's another, totally different language that it'd be nice if those things were more universal. But I think there's obviously agenda why it's not universal. because when someone knows and someone doesn't know, the person who knows gets to control it. But also, I think encourage everybody that if you're alive in 2020 and beyond, and even more recent years, we've always had access to the information, so we can always better ourselves and become more informed. So thank you, Sean, for sharing with us today. I'm going to do my closing, and then if you have any closing thoughts, anything related to we talked about, or if you want to talk about something else, please do share it. But we want to thank everybody for joining us today on Diversity Chat. So we appreciate of diversity, destroy ignorance before it destroys another life. I want to thank Sean again for joining me, my cousin Sean.
Can I just say something really quick? Because you brought up a good point about death, and I just wanted to bring that up as far as the housing is concerned. It's very, very important. Unfortunately, again, about things that weren't taught to us. We were taught that if we had a will, that everything is great. At least that's what I remember. Oh, you get a will, everybody's happy with the will. But if you own a property, just to take it back to property, if you own a property, it's becoming, unfortunately, in our community, it's very common for your people to lose the house and the house to go to probate. And you go to the courthouse and all that, and that's a terrible, terrible, that's not how the process is supposed to work. You want to always get what's called a living trust. That's what you want to get. We were told to get a will. And what the only thing a will does is when the house does go to the courts, the judge at least has a will to read. But you still have to pay the judge, pay the lawyer, pay all these court fees to get the house back, which in most of the time you wind up selling the house. Because obviously somebody dying is a surprise, and then a lot of times people's credit is not correct and they can't purchase the house or refinance the house. So what you want to always do is you always want to get what's called a living trust, not a will. Living trust, very, very important, very, very important to do that, and like you said, to keep the generational wealth going. Okay, I just wanted to make that.
I value that. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. What is that living trust?
Well, what a trust is so you ever watch like the old fancy movies, and someone passes away, and you're watching, and they're like sitting in a chair, and a lawyer or somebody's behind a desk, and they're telling everybody, and somebody cries, "Oh, I wanted the money," or whatever, right? But we all know that scene.
Yeah, Knives Out has it. I just watched that movie recently.
Okay,
it's a newer movie.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, so everybody loves that scene. That scene only happens if you have a trust. We've made it look like this is only rich people do that. You got to be really fancy for this stuff to happen. But that needs to happen. But whether it's for rich people or whatever you want to call it, that needs to happen after your death. That whole scene needs to happen for everybody's death. Because if it doesn't, it's a big deal, and it becomes a bigger mess. At least that right there, when you're watching that, that's a controlled mess. People are upset with the money, how much they're gonna get or whatever, but they're set. The person who has passed has already put in place who's going to get what and how it's going to look, and that's what the living trust does. If you're living, and so you are telling the trust what to happen at your passing. And that's usually done by a lawyer, a law firm. It usually does. It's called estate planning, is what it's called. And when you're doing
more about this, I literally worked with a probate attorney. Some of these terms I brushed against, but I didn't hold on to it too much. But that's really helpful.
Even in that, be such a big job.
Huh?
The probate attorneys should not be as busy as they are.
Because people are dropping the ball, they just don't know, right?
That's right. It's terrible, and it's a whole gamut on really you're just taking advantage of the family. It's terrible. All the stuff that goes on in the probate between the lawyers and the judge and and it's just a mess. But I mean, it's really nobody's fault but the people who are losing the house.
I was going to say, yeah, it sounds like the probate attorney is almost formed by necessity.
Right.
Because gap there, a ball dropped and somebody had to pick it up. So it's a probate attorney.
Yeah, they're
but
not doing anything wrong. They're just doing their job.
Yeah, usually when... Go ahead.
Oh, I was just saying, but no one's educating the community. Like you said, if you're not educated, then the person who is educated can kind of tell you what to do. And that's what's happening. They're just telling people what to do with their own properties, right? Telling people what to do every day, all day.
Yeah, that's a concern. I guess if you have Netflix and you have YouTube, it's easy to not be concerned.
Right.
Because you're distracted binge watching, but definitely important to educate ourselves and talk to people. I mean, one of the reasons we have diversity chats is to say maybe you have someone in your space that you feel hesitant to talk to because they might look different than you or whatever, but you guys actually might have more in common than you think. And not only that, they might be a blessing in disguise for you. And if you can get past the book cover that you're trying to read the whole book from, you might find out that, hey, Sean actually has a wealth of knowledge that can really help me be successful in life and help set up my family for success, when I pass away or something like that. So you never know where your blessing can come from. So I hope, people watching, myself, my cousin, that we wouldn't be judging people or misjudging people, but we would be open to the possibilities of who's standing next to us and what that can mean for our lives. I mean, use discernment, but don't close yourself off to possible blessings.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so thank you again, everybody, for watching. I know this probably could go on. You could probably talk about this for a while. And I'm a talker, but I did ask for 30 minutes of your time and we passed it. So thank you again. And thank you guys for watching. Please tune in again. The Diversity Chapter, Bridge the Gap to Diversity and Destroy Ignorance before it destroys another life. God bless everybody. See you later.
All right.
Then thank you for your time.